cosas naranjas nivel 40, guárdalo, pero no las de nivel 5, ¿verdad?
Claro.
Fíjate en los stats y si te vale.
Ah, entonces sabes que voy a volver al campamento. Antes que vengas, me voy al campamento.
Claro, estoy tranquilo, estoy de vuelta.
Xi Jinping's approach to governing China
Che, me voy a China, man.
by the historical lessons drawn from the collapse of the Soviet Union. He cites the failure of the Soviet Union as a warning for China, emphasizing
Vamos a dar truchas a Japón.
Vamos a Japón, vamos a China.
Vámonos a la verga, brother. El año que viene, brother.
Sí, obvio.
Pues hay que elaborar.
Hay que romperse el orto ahora. Todo lo que se...
El tiempo que viene hay que dar todo.
Sí, la tiempo que viene es la que...
Saco 20 me compro ya 2 pases para empezar el año.
Claro. Chao.
Ya no estoy con tanto rollo. Cambio de foto y...
Ah, pero no te dice el nivel de las cosas naranjas estas.
En algunas no, otras sí. Te pone require, mira.
Ah, claro.
Me pone requires level 16 y 38 de dexterity.
Sí.
Destreza. Depende de algunas que sí, otras depende de lo que te pido. Por eso te digo que fíjate bien y los atributos, ¿sabes?
Claro. Me dan lástima.
Algo bien con algo amarillo que tengas y los amarillos los puedes mejorar mucho, le puedes meter ahí más, ¿entiendes?
Sí.
Yo tengo cosas amarillas como con 5 o 6 stats. Mira. 1, 2, 3, tengo 5. Con 6 stats tengo un coso amarillo, un cinturón.
Claro.
Y luego después mejorar el quality también, ¿entiendes?
Sí.
Que ahí...
No, lo hago todo, boludo, pero los naranjas veo que no se puede mejorar.
Claro, por eso te digo que hay algún amarillo que si lo mejoras...
Este está bueno.
Y luego puedes rolear. Hay un vendedor que te vende cosas en random, que son todo gris, pero te pone que es random, ¿entiendes?
Claro.
Capaz que te compras 4 a la vez y uno de ellos te sale amarillo o naranja.
Oh.
5.
Ahí está, lo voy a comprar.
Te salen todo azul y no te valen, ¿sabes?
Lo voy a usar.
O sea, nunca sabes, por eso te digo que tienes un montón aquí de no solo...
Comprar la... Armadura corporal, armadura... yo no sé.
Pero
Pues...
es random.
Ahí está. Pero es... me salió el mismo dibujo.
Ten cuidado porque hay uno que te vende cosas grises, yo creo que son random. Mucha gente...
No, es este, sí, de las grises. De aleatorio.
Se llamará en español o no sé.
Me dio algo bueno, boludo. A ver. No me sirve.
Pero ten cuidado que gastas mucho oro con eso, ¿eh?
Yo tengo... ¿Querés saber cuánto tengo?
¿De oro?
Sí.
200.000.
637.133.
Qué loco estás. Es porque no has comprado nada, ¿no?
No.
Pero yo sí. Yo tengo 75.000. Bueno, también estás en nivel...
¿70.000 tenés?
Sí.
Ah.
Tírame un poco de oro.
¡No!
Sí.
Tanto trabajo, culiao, eso son horas de trabajo, man.
600.
Eso es tiempo de mi vida, man.
El tío Gilito y no quiere dar un poquito, no quiere dar la paga aquí.
Al tío. Y bueno, a ver qué ofreces, boludo, porque vos me debes unas sandalias naranjas todavía.
Tengo unas, pero no te valen. Son para el carrera.
Acá podemos hacer un trueque, todo trueque, acá no hay donaciones. Es todo trueque, pero vos podés salir favorecido, ¿cómo no? A ver, ¿qué es lo que me da? Ya no hay camino que recorra tu pasado, tan solo si ca... Uy, lo rico que es lo que me dio. Pues estarás todo el día así comprando cosas así.
Pero por ejemplo, ¿para quién es?
Para...
¿Qué estás comprando? ¿Para el monje?
Sí.
Iba a decir, tampoco te vuelvas loco porque vas a subir de nivel rápido, ¿sabes?
Sí.
O sea, consigue un par de ítems y luego ya chao, luego los demás, ¿sabes? Ya comprarás más tarde.
Sí. Compré cosas y ahora estoy más lleno de cosas todavía. Me gustaría comprar más espacio para guardar con más cosas, boludo.
Seguramente puedo, ¿sí?
A ver. .
al waypoint.
¿Cómo es afinidades de pestaña?
Uy, me morí. Poquitito me morí.
No, son 4 páginas, no, que te deja.
Won't eat anything cut.
Que es muy loco, tiene muchísimas cosas en el juego así. Y yo no sé, cuando saquen el juego entero, si va a haber que hacer todo otra vez de nuevo, ¿eh?
Ah, imagínate.
¿Lo viste?
No creo.
Recuerda que esto es una beta todavía.
We evil in the shadows.
Espero que no, porque
It's a deal.
Se veía muy culiado.
Don't drink the water.
Bueno, ya estoy.
But that's not what the fucking conversation was about. The conversation is whether or not you can be visibly a queer person. You absolutely can. Yeah, there's literally advertised gay cities in China. They're just aware of how LGBT rights are used by USAID and the CIA to create dissent. No, I don't think it's just that. They're also fucking conservative too. I think there's a little bit of social conservatism involved in this. It's not just like USAID uses gay advocacy, which is true. They do that for sure. Like civil society organizations, in an effort to destabilize countries, they do that 100%. Women who try to speak up about abuse, especially those in power, get censored. Women try to speak up about abuse, especially those against power, get censored. They're seen as trouble. It is different. You aren't protected. Okay, that I can't speak on. But, you know, I live in America. And I feel like that is a common through line of misogyny here in the United States of America as well. Like, good luck talking about being raped. You know what I mean? I feel like that's just a universal principle of misogyny under patriarchal constructs. This isn't to say, like, this isn't to shelter China from the criticism at all. I don't know enough about this. But our president is Donald Trump. He was convicted through at least he was found in a court of law through civil litigation to have actually raped someone. Yes, it's a lower standard, a lower burden of proof than criminal litigation, but come on, you know?
China's economic development has been a driving force in the creation of an emerging multipolar world. This global shift in the redistribution of economic power can be seen in the flourishing development.
Not like trans women are protected in the U.S. either. Chinese trans people can change their ID. Americans cannot. I know. As in the last Trump administration, also we reversed some of the civil liberties, the remaining civil liberties that trans people had over here, as opposed to the Chinese trans population that now unironically outflank us on that too. So that's like another incredibly sad situation for how dire things have become here in the bastion of liberal democracy. We need to start making shadows prove they are not American before they start criticizing China. What do you mean? It's not just America. This is not just an America problem. This is a fucking Western world problem. This is a Turkish problem. This is a problem everywhere. There's issues in China just as there are issues everywhere around the world, chat. This isn't to say that like these issues in China are irrelevant or that China is perfect. Far from it. No country is. My point, however, is always the same, which is that when you look at Chinese governance,
No.
you look at Chinese governance, and you apply an incredibly critical lens that you do not apply to your own state, it rings hollow. Some people apply that critical lens to their own state, but then apply extra critical lenses to the Chinese state. You have to match what a major power is doing around the globe to the other major power. If we're setting the standard of violence, we have to look to the United States of America. That's what I do. This is what pisses off a lot of Americans, especially American chauvinists. They think this is whataboutism. This is not whataboutism. That's why I always routinely talk about China's actions in the South China Sea. Spraying fucking Filipino boats with water cannons, right? America talks about that act as the most egregious form of violence. This is, like, at maximum, 1,000 miles off the fucking Chinese coastline, where they're literally spraying another boat with water, and America considers this to be the most violent act that a state could ever engage in, while America's boats are also in that fucking sea, tens of thousands of miles away. And on top of that, America's doing a fucking genocide in Gaza. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, they have border disputes with India. It's a laughable notion. They literally dress up in full riot gear and fight one another with fucking sticks and stones. When America has a border dispute with a country, which, you know, doesn't usually happen, America has border disputes a world away from the United States of America. They fucking eradicate the entire population. They rape and pillage. They fucking torture people that they take prisoner unjustifiably. And we're over here being like, well, you know, those sticks and stones border conflict they have with India is the most unacceptable form of violence. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. This is what I'm talking about. This is not a defense of America, and it's not a defense of China. But if the standard of violence is supposed to be universal, or criticisms of violence is
China.
universal, it's like yelling at your neighbor for being too loud when you are beating the fuck out of your son every night. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I can't believe you reprimanded your child. How dare you do that as I abuse my son? You know what I mean? This is unacceptable. It's just copium. Or not even fucking, not even abusing your child. It's like being a fucking serial killer and then getting mad at a dude doing MMA. What is this? Gay marriage acceptance by country? 43, 39, 20% support some rights. What is this? What is, oh, the acceptance? Ipsos more urban educated than representative? I'm confused about this. 39, 20% support some rights, 18% not sure. 56% against? Wait, this is the worst way to look at this data. I'm so confused. What a weird but understanding comparison. Yeah, I hope this is eye-opening for some people. Like, I criticize China plenty. It's just that people want me to constantly, like, if I were to talk about America, right, doing something right for once, and that doesn't happen regularly, but let's say in a hypothetical scenario where America did something correct, like Build Back Better, okay? Every conversation has to start off, if I were to talk about America like I talk about China, like the expectation of how I'm supposed to talk about China, okay, I would have to literally start talking about Build Back Better and immediately go chattel slavery, indigenous genocide, okay, Biden's crime bill. Like every single time, instead of talking about Build Back Better, I would have to consistently talk about like the execution of revolutionary leadership, the McCarthyist trials, like Japanese internment camps. I would never, yeah, see, this is it. NSA mass surveillance, Kent State, Church of Scientology, David Miscavige, May 4th, 1970 massacre, May 13th, 1995 move bombing, 1919 House On-American Activities Committee, Trail of Tears, Jim Crow, Segregation, Human Rights Citizens United, Safety, high-speed rail, strong mass line, Republic of Hawaii, 13 colonies, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, Edward Snowden. Some of those are hilarious. But Henry Kissinger, nukes.
Canales, entra a los canales Matlán.
Like, it would be ridiculous. I would never be able to talk about, like, the
Y viaja a los humedales de las quimeras.
of American politics at all. This is how Americans want me to talk about China. I've covered Xinjiang plenty. I've covered the camps created, the re-education camps that were created for Uyghurs under the boundaries of, under the claim that they were separatists. Some of them were, but that doesn't matter. Like, you can't just do dragnets and mass surveillance over an entire population of people and fucking neuter their cultural, neuter their culture. These are the types of things that I criticize when I'm talking about China. Having said that, however, if Israel treated the Palestinian population in the same way that China treated its Uyghur population, okay, where they have freedom of fucking travel and are full-blown Chinese citizens, okay, at the end of the goddamn day, regardless of the cultural genocide or the re-education or whatever the fuck, okay, the rest of the world, the Western world, would hail Israel as the most moral nation on the fucking planet. Nobel Peace Prize would be given out every fucking day. They would run out of peace prizes to give to Israel. There would never be another person that ever received a peace prize because they would talk about how Israel deserves it every single fucking year. Do you understand the cruelty, that the appetite that we have for death and destruction for Western powers and Western aligned powers and an expression of Western imperialism versus like what our supposed enemies do, what our foreign adversaries do? Okay? So it feels
eso es tuyo, ese fuego.
constantly bring that shit up every single goddamn time. Like when I'm talking about high-speed rail, they'll be like, oh,
yo.
That's it. We have cities that are famous for being gay as fuck, but we are not being persecuted by law. Yes, we want more rights and to be protected by law. On the other hand, the Chinese gay community is somewhat similar to the American gay community in the early 2000s. There's no law of legal marriage, but most people understand it and know that it exists.
Fíjate, a ver, pone pausa.
I'm not saying
A ver, para, matemos esto. Listo, mira. Decime cuánto, anda habilidades, decime cuánto DPS tiene tu básico.
Yes, of course, I don't know the comings and goings of daily Chinese.
O bueno, ahí el que más tenga. Se está bajando igual,
to Chinese people and learn about what the struggles are, okay? Learn.
Un cuadrito a la derecha arriba de todas las habilidades tiene un numerito.
And there are also other things that I've talked about, like the.
Yo tengo uno ahora que se bajó a 1500.
Between tier 1 cities and villages, and how obviously not the entirety of China has not completed.
Son todas 3 cifras.
This point, and how there's still a disparity there. Okay, there is plenty of issues in China as well. There are also areas of reform in those There is a need for reform, and the Chinese government seemingly cares about reforming some of these structures. So, yes,
Fíjate de agregarle más.
certainly more in tune with
Agregarle nuevos circulitos, nuevos engarces para runas, boludo. Para más así el support.
the United States of America. But another part of the reason
Así tenés 3 support ahí por habilidad.
America is the global hegemonic power. It does not have the need to justify its existence. It never has seen the need to justify its atrocities, to justify why it's doing the things that it's doing, because it's always been for a higher purpose, maintaining the liberal capitalist order. This is precisely the reason why they can be flagrantly violent, openly violent, and even flex how violent they are. This is also the same reason why America can have freedom of speech. If you recall, almost a year ago or a couple months ago, I reiterated the position that I've held for a very long time. You will
Pará, el cosolete ese no.
boundaries of free speech truly are
Me sirve a mí el cosolete,
in the
boludo.
United States of America.
Los
when America
cosoletes.
starts recognizing
Ah,
that its material
no, este no me sirve.
eroding, and it is no longer the most powerful.
El amarillo no me sirve.
America throughout periods of struggle,
Era el traje.
like the civil rights
El traje
struggle,
que estaba. No, eso no me sirve a mí.
periods of war have shown that they do not have any care or consideration
No, eso no me sirve a mí.
free speech. Look at the McCarthyist trials, for example. Look at the assassination of revolutionary black leaders.
No, yo agarré solamente el traje.
So, this does not mean that there isn't free speech or more expansive free speech. I'm not a free speech absolutist. There's no such thing anyway. Obviously, there's limitations to that regardless.
Se llama cosolete de piel de serpiente de piel de acero.
Has the most liberal opinion when it comes to free speech.
Es un traje.
The reason
Pero que
why
tiene-
I say America has the most liberal opinion when it comes to
Tiene 200 de evasión.
America's the most powerful nation on the planet.
Solo eso.
And the more
Ese no
you
me sirve.
use that grip of power, the more you will learn that free speech is not a right, but simply a privilege that the most powerful nation on the planet was able to maintain. And it's going away. It's going away already. It's going away at a rapid, alarming rate. Something that I actively fight back against.
Pero pego mucho, ¿entiendes? Los rayitos estos, mira todos los que salen.
Tenés velocidad. Tenés
Si multiplicas eso por 100, a lo mejor...
Movement of Chinese
Velocidad de
progress,
ataque.
notably the Belt and Road Initiative and the BRICS multilateral partnership. Under Xi Jinping's leadership, China has emerged as a dominant power on the world stage, which has presented hegemonic powers with a new challenge. Many Western countries have regressed back into economic nationalism, the erection of trade barriers, sanctions, and other soft power tools mobilized to disrupt the creation of a multipolar world. But as Xi Jinping asserts, whether you like it or not, the global economy is the great ocean from which you cannot escape. Any attempt to cut off the flow of capital, technologies, products, industries, and people between economies, and channel the waters into the ocean back
Casi,
into
bro.
isolated lakes and creeks is simply not possible. Indeed, it runs counter to the historical trend. The history of humanity tells us that problems are not to be feared. What should concern us is refusing to face up to problems and not knowing what to do about them. The persistent...
You are fucking ignorant and defending you fucking take. Absolutely fuck you for this take, but we aren't
Ven acá.
people who ignore what the West does. Fucking educate or fucking take the
Ahí
train.
ya abrí un canal.
You piece of shit. That doesn't imply acceptance at all, and that means we should call out fucking China for trans hate. Fuck your take, showing his fucking ignorance towards trans issues.
Sí, me parece que volviste, ¿no?
What is going
Me
on?
mataron, boludo. Están muy fuertes las porongas estas, man. La concha del loro. Bueno, estoy acá.
Hello? What? Explain what your gripe is. I am confused. we must nuke China to liberate the trans community of China. What is happening here? The Chinese nation does not like her. She talked about it often. You are wrong. You fucking can't. The trans woman you were talking about was almost thrown out. She talked about it and how it's okay to be a femboy, not actually fucking gay or trans. You are wrong here. You are fucking playing it down, and that's a problem. Fuck you for this take. China hates trans and queer people. Like, fuck America, but don't claim China is good to queer people. I didn't say that China is good to queer people. I just said that given this current administration that I suspect you live under and its initiatives against trans people, China is now better to queer people, including trans people, than the United States of America is. I didn't say China is a bastion of queer liberation. But I also don't understand what this smoke is like. What the fuck? Yeah, you're also wrong about saying the Chinese nation does not like her. She is literally the largest television star in China. What the fuck?
They shall.
Like, not every country is like Thailand, all right?
¿Esos círculos son tuyos o no?
You know, which is objectively
Los círculos del piso.
the most pro-queer country.
Sí, es ese.
True. Woke land. Is this chatter just like get mad and then leave? Like, what the fuck happened?
Victims of regional conflicts, terrorism, poverty, unemployment, economic crises, refugee waves, and widening income gaps are problems that have accelerated under the global economy, shaped by unipolarity and Western universalism. But these problems are not inevitable outcomes of economic globalization. Rather, they are the consequences of excessive pursuit of profit by financial capital and the grave failure of financial regulation. War, conflict, and regional turbulence have created many problems, and their solution lies in making peace, promoting reconciliation, and restoring stability. Simply blaming economic globalization for the world's problems is neither consistent with reality nor helpful in finding solutions. Xi Jinping sees a bright future for China, enabling it to play a role on the world stage to promote peace and cooperation among multiple poles of power, rather than domination and submission to a single one. I have made it clear again and again that China's door will never be closed. It will only open even wider. China will never waver in its effort to pursue high-quality opening up. China will never falter in its efforts to pursue an open world economy. And China will never relent in its efforts to pursue a global community of shared future.
This was a great video. I didn't know this channel existed, but I like it. Look, I'm trans, so I'll weigh in. We just need to accept that there isn't anywhere that's particularly good to us right now. This is a new info. China is improving. The U.S. is receding. Many other Western countries are being reactionary against our rights as well. Thailand isn't even perfect. There's still discrimination even if their healthcare initiatives are better. Yeah. There's a big trans video creator who does a lot of trans-related skits, and she's openly trans to the point where she listed out all the operations and medications she's taking, and even listed the prices, Lamau. Yeah, I'm... Like, people bring this kind of stuff up because I think they read like a Pink magazine article or something, but they don't investigate it any further. It just doesn't match what I have seen. Maybe I don't know, for sure. I'm willing to admit that, but I think that's the problem here. They read like they literally read like a USAID subsidized fucking article written by some dude from a think tank, being like China is working to kill every queer person or whatever, and then they go, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then they turn around and they're just like, no, you don't understand, like, yeah. Transgender woman, this is from Radio Free Asia. Transgender woman, this is literally Voice of America, okay? This is American CIA newspaper. Transgender woman wins payout in China for electroshock conversion therapy. Ling Er wins unprecedented compensation after being incarcerated in a psychiatric facility. A transgender woman in China who won an unprecedented compensation. I feel like you can't do that in America even.
Acá, abriételo.
The woman, known only by her nickname Ling Er for fear of reprisal, recently made headlines after winning 60,000 yuan, $8,300, in competition in connection with illegally administered electroconvulsive therapies held at Qinhuangdao No. 5 hospital in the northern province of Hebei. No, they do electroshock therapy in America and in other Western nations as well. I'm saying that I don't think you'd be able to win compensation against it. Japan also isn't perfect with LGBTQ rights, but they're not going to tell you to shut the fuck up whenever you glaze Japan, Lamau. Yeah, that's the other part of this puzzle as well. Like, the greatest example I can give you is I Show Speed. Okay? I saw a very viral tweet on the timeline of what I suspected people would inevitably say. That I Show Speed was being paid by the government, or at least like being promoted by the government to show, like, they recognize the soft power capabilities here. They recognize that he was doing they recognize that he was doing great work in like cutting through all of the anti-China propaganda by just like simply existing in China. And this person says, I suspected it before, but now I'm sure of it. The Speed China visit is being curated by the government to show off China to the young Westerners. No regular tourists would just show up and have all these chance meetings and opportunities to fall in their lap. Yes, there's probably some truth to this, but it is not nefarious in the way that you think it is. And the reason why it's nefarious is because this dude with 38 million subscribers also went to Peru. And when he fucking went to Peru, he became the mayor of a town in Peru for the day. And I didn't see anybody go, I can't believe the Peruvian government is doing this kind of thing for I Show Speed. Ah, I suspected it. He fucking went to Albania and hung out with the goddamn president. And I did not hear people go, well, he's in the pocket of Big Albania. He's in the pocket of Albanians. Perhaps it is because he is a massive cultural ambassador. And that is precisely the fucking reason why governments, when he comes over there, goes, oh, dude, fuck yeah, let's show him a fantastic time. This is amazing. Do you understand?
La campana.
It's because China, the factor here in consideration
Sí.
is that it's China doing this. China is the fourth factory. China is the reason why this is nefarious and scary and bad. Okay? And that's what I mean when we talk about, this is precisely what I mean when I talk about like the way that we approach China because of Western chauvinism is incredibly critical, more so than the way we cover any other country that is within the sphere of American influence. Even if they have the exact same problems, or even if they, act out in the same exact ways. That's it. And it's not like I don't fucking criticize China. It's just that I apply the same critical lens that I do across the board. And people can't even, God forbid, entertain a moral playing field across the board that I might have.
No.
A universal morality that I might be applying in my contemporary analysis. That's what they get mad about. They expect the standards of foreign adversaries to be much higher.
No enemigo. Una palanca del canal.
We apply to our own selves or our own.
Que si la cierro, no sé qué pasa.
I'll give you another example, not China. People fantasize about Palestinian existence being like this incredibly brutal, incredibly ruthless, Sharia law dominated, Islamist fundamentalist Salafist society. Okay? The irony, of course, is that many of America's actual fucking allies directly in that region are like that. Palestine is not like that. We just suspect that they're like that because of Islamophobia, while simultaneously never actually demanded the government not give fucking unlimited billions of dollars of weapons to a country that is exactly like that is currently doing a fucking genocide or participating in its own violent conquest in a country like Yemen, for example. This is what is so frustrating. this is at the heart of a lot of people's criticisms with someone like myself.
Good luck.
Mira este
Why
Halle
China
Bieber.
is so bad? I never said that.
¡Hey, Halle Bieber!
I used to think China was this big bad enemy, but over the years of looking at China and watching you, I really changed my mind. They're still not perfect, but they're definitely doing better than us in the US. Yeah. But that's it. That's the whole point. And I think these kinds of actions will also change people's minds about both China and also contemporary American politics, American existence, America being a stain on the fucking planet. This doesn't mean that America should be destroyed. I'm not saying that. Okay? Some people will say that. I'm not saying that. I think America or Americans that have engaged in war crimes should be punished. And I think America should offer reparations. Having said that, my smoke is not for the average Americans. I want to change their minds so that they also work alongside myself to make America a better place for the rest of the world and a better place to live in general. But of course, every single day we move further and further away from that. But at least in the interim, more people's eyes
Gordo de mierda.
open to the reality that maybe China is not the big bad that was presented to them as such, and that maybe America is closer to that big bad with all of the actions that Donald Trump has taken so far, both domestically and also around the planet. So let's get back to China's defiant attitude after Trump threatens additional 50% tariffs. The reason why we took a sidestep here to understand Xi Jinping thought was so that we understand how they are going to retaliate, or if it's likely that they will stay defiant or remove their counter tariffs and concede.
It's much more defiant. You brought up that phrase, mistake upon mistake. That is some of the language we heard today.
My parents are first-gen Chinese that have always been at odds and highly critical of China, even after going there twice in 2 separate decades. It was not until you who changed my mind and realized that China has a lot of issues, but they're not the big bad we make them out to be. That's crazy. That's how powerful American social conditioning is, where you can be like second-generation Chinese and be like, yeah, China is big bad, actually. It's really bad. They're eating fucking rats over there.
From China's Ministry of Commerce, and it's taking a very strong stance. In fact, it also went on to say that China will resolutely take countermeasures to safeguard its own rights and interests. As far as what those countermeasures could be, we heard from a state media commentator who brought up the point that we could see more tariffs targeting agriculture, things like soybeans, which we know are so important to American farmers, the broader economy, even restricting or banning American films. We heard at a press briefing just about 4 hours ago from a spokesperson from China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The messaging there, very strong, very firm. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Pressure, threats, and blackmail are not the right ways to engage with China. If the U.S. disregards the interests of both countries and the international community, insists on launching a tariff or trade war, China will fight to the end.
Fight to the end. That spokesperson was also asked, would China sit down at the negotiating table with the United States? His response, China has not shown any kind of genuine willingness to have a substantive conversation. John, that's where things stand now, just past 7 o'clock in the evening here in Beijing.
Yeah, no, I know it's been a long day there in China, taking some measures to prop up its own markets. This is what you do if you're gearing up for a fight that may not end soon. Mark Stewart in Beijing, great to see you. Thank you very much.
The Chinese Commerce Ministry firmly denounced President Trump's threat to raise cumulative tariffs on China to more than 100%. That could happen as early as this week. Bringing CNN's Christy Lee Stout in Hong Kong for us. Christy Lee, great to have you. Trump ratcheting up clearly the global trade war with this new tariff threat. How's Beijing responding?
Well, Beijing is responding this way. It is calling Trump's 50% tariff threat, quote, a mistake upon a mistake, and it is vowing to fight until the very end. It was on Monday when you heard from U.S. President Donald Trump again, when he ratcheted up the global trade war, lashing out at China for striking back and threatening a new 50% tariff against Beijing if Beijing doesn't remove its.
How can we think we're in the right here? Like, how can any American at this stage, when their treats are supposed to be taken away from them for no reason other than greed, narcissism, what is this, news on Twitch? Twitch makes a deal to escape Elon Musk's suit, alleging ex-ad boycott conspiracy. Twitch must meet certain conditions by the end of the year to get dismissal. Twitch has struck a deal with Elon Musk to eject itself from a lawsuit over an ad boycott. In a court filing, ex-lawyers provided no details. What? Oh no. Bro, I'm cooked. I think my days on this platform might be numbered, boys. I'm not gonna lie. Uh-oh. Elon Musk better be like, hey, one of my main demands is that you ban Hassan Biker. Hey, yo. How much you want to bet you're getting banned as part of the deal? No, I don't think so. Nah, that would not happen. That would be crazy. All right, we'll read that later. We'll read the details of that later after we're done with the Chinese century of prosperity. Listen, I have my own ways of pushing back, okay? Let's say Elon wages war against little old me. I will go to China. I will become the greatest white monkey that the Chinese government has ever seen. I will become the greatest regime-killed propagandist of China to slowly but surely work my way as much as a non-Chinese can through the Politburo all the way to win favors in the highest office to basically destroy the Tesla facilities piece by piece, okay? I will collaborate with Benjamin Norton, and I will do everything in my power to become the Chinese party man with one singular purpose. One, obviously, to play a formative role in Chinese prosperity, Chinese century of prosperity, you know, inshallah. But also, secondly, to ensure that Elon Musk can never produce product out of China ever again if he were to come after me in this way.
Retaliatory 34% tariff, China is holding firm and China is pushing back. We heard earlier today from the Commerce Ministry of China issued a very defiant statement with this expert. Let's bring it up for you. The expert saying this, quote, the U.S. threat to escalate tariffs in China is a mistake on top of a mistake, which once again exposes the blackmailing nature of the U.S. China will never accept it. If the U.S. insists on its own way, China will fight to the end, unquote. The ministry also called for all tariff plans to be dropped and called for dialogue to settle differences. Earlier, we heard from the spokesman of the Chinese embassy in the United States, who took a more measured tone, using language that we've heard time and time again during ongoing trade battles between U.S. and China. This is what Liu Pengyu said in a statement. He said this to CNN, quote, we have stressed more than once that pressuring or threatening China is not a right way to engage with us. China.
Look, as an Aussie viewpoint on China is a bit different and not as bad as painted as some of the internal stuff. They are imperial though. Look at what's happening in the Philippines, in the South China Sea, etc. They've also threatened Australia even recently, basically saying that I see them just as bad as America, but not worse. No. Imaginary Noah! Thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Can I talk to you? No. Why do you think gifting 50 gifted subs is a way to purchase some time on the broadcast? You can talk to me about what you want to talk here in chat. That's crazy. Thank you for the gifty. Thank you for the gifties, though. And no, I disagree with what the Australian chatter said. Okay? It's additionally funny to say China has the same imperial conquest ambitions as America does from Australia, which is one, not only cucked as a member of the Commonwealth still to this day, but also double cucked because there are numerous CIA bases on your soil. As far as I understand, there are no Chinese intelligence agency bases on your soil. You should be excited because of your proximity that you become a vassal state to China. When the Chinese century of prosperity is imminent, it's happening. I wish I lived in Australia and could see the fantastic ways in which Australia is becoming a vassal state for China. Okay? I think that's awesome.
And will firmly safeguard its legitimate rights and interests, unquote. Now, China watchers are watching all this very, very closely and believe that China is going to hold firm and China is not going to budge. It's not going to give up. It's threatened retaliatory tariffs.
Thank you for the 100 gifted subs. God damn.
34% set to kick in later this week on April the 10th. In fact, this is what Ryan Haas, a scholar of Brookings, had to say. He posted this on X just a few hours ago. It's a very interesting analysis. He said this: I am skeptical that Beijing will blink on President Trump's recent tariff escalation threats. Chinese leaders understand holding firm will be economically costly. They are preparing the public to tolerate they drive decisions, unquote. Silver Hell, China, any trade breakthroughs.
Esos monos, boludo. Hijo de puta.
Calling China peasants is going to literally, in my opinion, first of all, JD Vance calling China peasants is going to play a big role in this. It's a mistake in the propaganda war, okay? This causes the Chinese population to hear that and immediately shut down. They will hold steadfast and firm, okay? So you cut away at the popular mobilization against tariffs. Also, the second issue here is business owners, right? Tariffs are awful in the long term for all workers in general because the cost of living goes up, or layoffs take place, all this stuff. But the concentrated power amongst the business owning class makes it so that their voices and their concerns are heard instantly, especially in a country like the United States of America. So when the bottom line of corporations are harmed in the process, as they will be, business owners can make a way larger fuss here in America than they can in a place like China. This is something that I don't even think the Trump administration would be able to overcome in a way that the Chinese administration absolutely would be able to overcome.
MC, not only that, China is digging in. We're held back to you.
Yeah, certainly if they say we're willing to fight to the end, it doesn't sound like they're willing to budge, not at this point at least. Chrissy Luke's out in Hong Kong. Chrissy, thank you. We're also learning new details about what's happening behind the scenes at the White House as this chaotic tariff rollout.
This is like if money is fake, or at least like completely controlled by the government in China, like they can move stuff around to lessen the impact of no longer being able to sell to the United States of America, which would be their largest trading partner. Okay, the consumption engine of the planet. We did not threaten Australia the same way Australia did not threaten us by sailing ships across the Taiwan Strait, conducting live fire exercises with the U.S. and Japan. No matter how high the eagle soars the sky, the serene winds will always surround it. China has and always will respond to U.S. actions with calm and reason. You decide if the future is carried on by a gentle breeze or a howling storm. Brawl games, I already talked about the Hukou system. Yes. It is one that is in instant need of reform. And as far as I understand, the Chinese government says that they will reform it. It's like 996 and the hukou system are some of the immediate issues in modern Chinese existence. Thank you, Maoist guy from Ohio, also known as Top G, one of my favorite chatters on the broadcast. Even though his words cut deep, because he says things that I think are utterly unconscionable. He says things.
Estoy haciendo bullying al gordo, mira. Pum. Campanita.
Things about me.
Y chao.
My loyalty to the People's Republic that I think are utterly unconscionable and also outright misinformation. Misinformation to such a high degree that Xi Jinping would not allow it on Chinese social media. Okay? Having said that, however,
¿Cómo que no tengo más lugar?
funny, so I allow it. They cut deeply because they're true and truth hurts? No, it's not true.
Is about to kick into overdrive overnight. And what message some...
You calling me a white American would be like me calling you a Greek Arab. Enough with your petulance. You're definitely a white American from Iowa. Ohio, not Iowa. Iowa is a sister state to Shenzhen. I made that up. My words to you are not meant to be hurtful. They are meant to improve you. You will find them cruel only because part of you knows they are true. This is your struggle session, and it's for your own good.
Some of the people around the president think he should and should not be pushing with the American public. CNN's Elena Treen at the White House for us. Elena, this is going to be quite the day. What are you learning?
You're exactly right. It will be. Look, we actually had some new reporting come out about how, as all of this is, of course, all of these tariffs, people are trying to figure out what exactly is the way out of this. And, markets are responding by being scattered. 401ks are shrinking. We learned that over the weekend, the president's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, actually flew to Mar-a-Lago and to deliver a message to the president. Essentially, that message, Kate, was that
Nuevo bastón, señores.
Team on the same page, but also more clearly explain to the American people what
debería ir a comer, boludo.
tariffs are, and of
A
course,
bajar a hacerme un pedazo de carne rápido.
better trade deals with other countries. And yesterday, say that he is open to negotiate.
Ah, sí, dale.
As he wants to try and milk these other countries for everything they can get, and his ultimate priority is really to try and erase some of the deficits that America has with these other countries. We've heard the president say as much. Now, all of this, though, of course, comes as a lot of people have been trying to kind of read between the lines of what different top economic...
Yeah, I saw the EU, von der Leyen, saying something along the lines of like, China should not escalate against the United States of America. Keep being a lapdog to American empire, von der Leyen. Keep doing that. That surely has helped the European Union thus far.
Listo. Bullying.
Donald Trump every day is like,
le hice bullying como le hicieron bullying a Eminem de chico.
to fuck us over. How dare they? How dare they? They are screwing us over. I will not stop until every European suburb is filled to the brim with F-150 pickup trucks that will mutilate and murder all of your children because the clearance is way too high. It won't fit on your roads, but you will repave all of your roads until the entirety of Barcelona is one big parking lot. And she's out here being like, yeah, it's really fucked up that China is responding in time to the tariffs with retaliatory tariffs. Can we not do that, please? Trump's like, I will not stop until the European Union is entirely in the hands of the Russian Empire. We will make Tsar Nicholas look like a peacenik. And European leaders are like, no, you don't understand. It's just, this is actually just a mistake. And also China is the wrong party here, not the wronged party.
scientific advisors here at the White House are saying. You know, there was some mixed messaging over the past several days. Even just yesterday, we heard one of the president's trade advisors, Peter Navarro, say that these tariffs are not a negotiation. Then you've heard Besson and others say they will be negotiating with some of these key trading partners. Listen to how the president responded to that.
There have been some mixed messages from your administration. You're talking about
At what point of fucked up actions will you finally believe Trump is trying to destroy the U.S.? I mean, Trump is trying to destroy the United States in the same way that capitalists have destroyed the United States. He's just doing more of the same thing and doing it in a belligerent manner. That's why I explained before that, like, Trump directionally is not changing the trajectory of American foreign policy and America's goals in undermining China at the global stage in terms of trade. That is not new. That is literally what Obama wanted to do as well. That is what Biden wanted to do as well. Every step that American governments take, whether they are Republican or Democrat, are in that direction. The thing is, Trump absolutely is demonstrating the logical conclusion, once again, accelerating the process in a way that is belligerent. The problem for America is not China. America's enemy is not China. America's enemy is not the Chinese people. America's enemy is global capital. And global capital is the enemy of all nations, as a matter of fact. These people do not have any sort of national loyalties whatsoever. They do not have loyalties to their fellow man. They do not have loyalties to their neighbors. They only have loyalty to the profit incentive. That's it. And they will do anything and everything to continue the profit margins increasing. They will do anything and everything to continue profits growing. That's it. So Donald Trump can fucking act as though he is trying to tackle these like serious enemies at the global stage, but he will never be able to succeed because he does not know who the real enemy is.
Negotiations, and yet others in your administration are saying that these tariffs are actually permanent. What is the action?
Well, they can both be true. There can be permanent tariffs, and there can also be negotiations because there are things that we need beyond tariffs.
It's so funny. He's getting progressively browner too in the process. He got so brown, ICE is gonna fucking hold him after this. They're gonna nab him when he leaves the fucking Oval Office.
Tariffs.
Now, Kate, one key thing as well to keep in mind, and this is something I've been picking up from officials behind the scenes, is that some people in this White House and administration do believe that the president needs to get some wins on the board, that some deals need to be made in the near term to essentially show the American people that their patience is...
Dude, there is no deal to be made. There's only simply the appearance of a deal that was made. It's the exact same thing that took place with Canada and Mexico for the past 2 months. There's nothing that genuinely changes in terms of policy internally or externally for any of the countries involved. Because the problem that they're talking about is not a real issue that they want to tackle. As long as you go up to him and say, yes, Mr. President, we love what you've done. You're right. Our trade relations are unjust. We will fix it. We will build factories in your country. We will purchase American goods. We are not going to stop until everyone has a Ford F-150 pickup truck. They're just going to say that, and Trump's going to be like, see, I did it. I won. Major victory. That's it. The same thing that Claudia Sheinbaum did, where she was like, you see, you were right. We were not tackling the fentanyl crisis in the serious ways that we were supposed to. That's all you need to do is be like, yeah, see, here's a chart that says, since you threatened us, we have done more apprehensions.
Is worth waiting for, to have them buy in to this tariff plan. And again, as people are really worried about what is happening to the stock market, to their retirement accounts, worried about what's going on with their wallets. So all of that as we see these tariffs expected to go into effect later tonight. Kate, it seems
¿Me puedo hacer la carne?
Watching an evolving definition of
Ahora sí, ¿no?
negotiation and negotiating is what we seem to be seeing from the president right now.